Come here. Yeah, little guy. Hello. Hello. Yeah. Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel, Rycrafty. My name is Heather and I'm going to talk about sewing today, and it's not the quilt. So the last couple videos I've done have been on my big yellow quilt that I started almost on a whim a few weeks ago, but I know a lot of you out there are garment sewers. I started this channel as a garment sewer. I want to reassure the garment sewers out there watching that I still sew clothes. So, clothes, particularly skirts today. So during Me Made May, I was trying to wear more, obviously, of my Me Made clothes, and I was also trying to make myself do some mending that I put off because I don't like doing the mending. Of course, I didn't do it all. There's still some stuff I need to alter. In particular, this skirt. So this is a skirt I made. I made it from sort of based on the pattern in Tilly Buttons' first book. I've made another skirt to that pattern, which I think was the first one. Don't remember. I've made it a few times. But you've probably seen my sort of beige with white and black stripes skirt. I wore that a few times during Me Made May. I wear it really often. It fits me really well, even though I made it a number of years ago. I think previously it wasn't necessarily like right on the smallest part of my waist. When I first made it, I probably wore it a little lower than that. Now it still fits, but I do have to wear it on the highest, smallest part of my waist. So I made that skirt a long time ago. I love it. It still fits. When I made this skirt, I only had a certain amount of this fabric, and so I remember I used the waistband pieces from that same pattern that sort of Tilly helps you draft in that book. So that's where these waistband pieces came from. And then, as I said, I only had certain widths of this fabric with this great border. And then I just figured out the math on how to sort of pleat it to get to use the maximum amount of fabric that I could. So there's a couple pleats in the front, 3 pleats in the front, and then pleats in the back as well, either side of the zip. It's a little hard to show because that part is the black part. It's hard for the camera to pick it up. So yeah, I made this myself from that pattern that I had used before. I put in an invisible zip, and I did wear it. I used to wear it, but it was always tighter than the other skirt, despite the fact that I used the same waistband pieces. And I think it might be partly because the beige skirt, it's a very loose weave of fabric, so I think it might have relaxed more over the years than this might have. But I love this skirt. I love this border pattern. The fabric is sort of sentimental as well. In 2013, so that's when I bought the fabric. That's when I bought this fabric 10 years ago. My mom and I went on a trip to Myanmar, also known as Burma, because that's where her father was born and lived. He lived there and went to school in India, and it was a hard country to get to for a while. And so my mom and I did this sort of long trip, and we found sort of family places that my grandpa always used to talk about. It was a really amazing trip. And also, I bought a bunch of fabric because the Burmese national dress is called a longyi, and men and women wear it, sort of tied in different styles. It's sort of like a sarong, sort of in that it's a long skirt. But when you buy longyi fabric, at least most of the women's, I did buy one men's longyi, I can't remember, but the women's ones tend to be sewn into a tube already, but it's a big tube. Like it has a very wide circumference. It's not just this. It's not just waist size. It's like double or triple your waist size, and you step into it, and then there's ways of folding it over and knotting it to make it look lovely. And so lots of the markets, they were selling longies, which essentially is just a long length of fabric with one seam already done up. So it's this large tube that is sort of some sort of average waist measurement from waist down to ground. And so I bought a lot of those, and I loved this one. And there were some of those sort of travel souvenir fabrics. For me, I didn't touch for a very long time because I didn't want to ruin them, because it's hard to get more, and these were the ones I bought on that particular trip. But eventually I knew this had to be some sort of skirt with this amazing border pattern. And it's 10 years ago now, and I can't remember, but this particular type of embroidery was specific to a certain ethnic group in Burma. So eventually I made it into that skirt, and that's why I want to save it so I can continue to wear it, because the problem is, I can't remember exactly when I made this, but it was probably 5 or 6 years ago, and while it was tight then, I could still fit into it, but I can't fit into it anymore. I can get the zipper partly done up, I can get it about this far, but I can't get this particular smallest part of the waistband to do up anymore. And it's been like that a couple years, and every so often I try it on, and it's just not comfortable. If I can get the zip done up, it is not sustainable for a full day's wear. So it's just been sitting in my closet, and I haven't been able to do anything with it, but I'm gonna fix it. First, I just want to say, I put pockets in, because all skirts should have pockets. I did some fun finishes on the inside. So I used from my giant magical bag of hem tape and bias tape that I bought at a vintage store a long time ago. I used this wide red lace to sort of help me turn up the hem. And then in the back, so I did French seams on the sides, even where the pockets are. But on the back where the zip is, I did, this is a Hong Kong finish? Not certain. I used red bias binding to bind the seam allowance where the zipper is, although one of those is coming undone. So I need to fix this so I can wear it, because I miss wearing it, and I like that it's black, but then it's fun, and I feel like I can wear just about any color with it. So I need to do something with this, and what I want to do with it is what I did to this skirt. So this skirt I originally bought at a vintage fair, which was definitely here, so it's within the last 6 or so years. This was originally a skirt with a waistband in this same cottony, linen-y fabric. And I know, yes, I slightly cut up / adjusted something vintage. But in my defense, the old waistband was so frayed and ripped already, it was coming off, but the actual skirt fabric was good, and it's so fun. It's French. It's like visitez Nice, visitez Cannes, jouez dans le soleil à France. Play in the sun in France. One day I want to go to Nice and wear this skirt and be that crazy tourist. But anyway, it had this terrible waistband and no pockets, but I loved this sort of patchworky primary color fabric, because as you may be able to tell, very little of my wardrobe is neutrals. So I bought it anyway, and then I went on Etsy and I bought some wide elastic from a company called StrapCraft. And that was in, I think, 2017 that I bought the elastic. So I removed the old waistband, unpicked the side seams so I could add pockets, which are just plain white cotton. Otherwise I didn't touch it. Took out the zip, because I think there used to be, it must have been a zipper. Put in the pockets, sewed it all up, and then just sewed on this really wide elastic. I bought a few elastics because I wasn't sure what would work. Obviously this is the one I went with, the blue and white stripe. I also bought some red because I think I was planning on doing something of possibly using it on this at some other point in time, or maybe the red in here. And I think I bought some blue as well, but this like perfect blue and white stripe elastic went so well with the skirt. I didn't take any fabric out. It's still nice and gathered, so it's nice and floofy. Great for hot summer days. And yeah, so that went really well. I want to do that to this. So it's going to be all elastic waist skirts from here on out. So as I said, I still had some elastic. I decided I didn't want to do the red because red isn't, I'm not really a red person. She says also wearing a top with red in it. But if I added a red waistband to this, it would limit some of the stuff I want to wear it with. So I went back on Etsy. I'd actually forgotten the name of the shop I originally bought the elastic from, but I just searched for wide elastic, and it was StrapCraft in, I think they're in Hong Kong, that came up immediately with the ones I liked, ones I recognized from that order 6 years ago. But yeah, it came up with elastics I recognized from before, so I made another order. It came really fast. It came way faster than the shipping estimate on Etsy said it would. So I bought these two, which are the same elastic in different widths. So you can see that these elastics are kind of textured. This is actually the exact same of the red elastic that I have. I think is this wider one is 2 inches. Has this exact same pattern on it. So I was pretty sure I was ordering from the same shop. And then I went back into my Etsy history after I'd made this order. I realized, yep, definitely the same shop. So I wasn't sure how wide I wanted the waistband on this one to be. This is the same width as that skirt. I said this is, I think, 2 inches, this is 1.5. So I'm not certain what I want this to be yet. I might actually do the thinner one just to be different than that elasticated skirt. I also bought, when I bought these, I was already paying for shipping, I bought this, which is just fun. I could see making some sweatpants and then using this instead of a self waistband. They actually had two, and one was sort of shiny and silver and one was this distressed white. I actually ordered the sparkly one, but I'm happy with this. I'm not mad enough to complain. But yeah, I think that'd be kind of fun as like sweatpant waistband. Well, I do kind of feel like for sweatpants I would want it to be wider because this is the 1.5. So that's it compared to the 2-inch wide. So yeah, don't know when I'm going to use this. It's just going to go in the box of elastic that I already have, but I thought it was cute. So now, for the rest of the weekend, my job is to turn this into a skirt. Like this. And I was really excited about finally being able to wear this skirt again until I sat down to record with both these skirts on my lap. And I realized I'm going to be unpicking black stitching on black fabric. So I think I'm going to have to sit directly under a lamp. So I think that might take longer than I originally thought, because I imagined myself like having this to wear by dinner. And that is not what's going to happen. There's a few layers of stitching on here that I'm going to have to pull out. I don't really want to make it shorter. I mean, if I wasn't too worried about making it like an inch or so shorter, I suppose I could just cut the waistband off, but I don't really want to do that. So I need to unpick the waistband and the zip, release the pleats because I'm just going to, when I sew it to the elastic, stretch the elastic just enough, and then I will have a new and wearable skirt after some painful ripping out of the black stitching on the black fabric. So I'm going to sit down with the seam ripper and some TV or some YouTube, and I'm going to see how long that takes me because I think it might take a while. So what I also think I want to do this weekend, provided unpicking this does not take as much time as I think it will, is I want to work on this. So this is some blue linen from Blackbird that I originally bought to make one dress that was going to be made up of 3 different linens. This blue, a lime green, and blue squiggle patterned flowers. So if you've been paying attention during Me Made May, and one of my most recent finished makes, I made actually the same top out of the lime green and squiggly floral fabric, and that's from the Sew Over It Summer Dreaming bundle. That's the Ravello top. This I cut up last summer, into a nice linen skirt for summer, which a year later is still in pieces. So this is also from the Sew Over It Summer Dreaming bundle. So this is the Siena dress, which can be made as a dress or as separates, a skirt and then a little sort of cropped waist-length tank top. And I actually made the top part that was meant to be a muslin for making the full dress I made it out of this fabric after making this top. I had enough leftovers. So that could be an outfit. I mean, this could be an outfit, or I have the tank top as well. I'm thinking maybe as a break from the quilting, I'll make myself 2 skirts this weekend. So I need to get unpicking, and then I can work on the black skirt. I'm gonna do that one first, because that one's, I think, closer to done, even though I have to do all that unpicking, because this is just bits. And then if I get that done soon enough, I will see if I can make myself a blue skirt. Okay, so after about an hour and a half of seam ripping, and then dinner, and then a nap, it's all just a piece of fabric again. Actually, it's a piece of fabric with a very nice hem and pockets. So I took off the waistband, I took out the zip, I took off the bias binding that was on the raw edges on the back seam where the zip was, because I think I'm going to French seam this so it matches the side seams, because we don't need a space for a zipper anymore. And that of course meant I had to undo some of this hem where the red is so I could get all the, or where the red lace is so I could get all the bias binding off. So first I have to iron, because these bits have been pleated probably 6 or 7 years. And so we need to flatten that up. There were so many lines of stitching because I had basted the pleats in as well, and the basting stitches were still in there. So yeah, now this just needs a good iron, and then French seam that back seam, and then I'll have a tube. I used almost all the width I had of this fabric. So again, this is made from a longyi, which is the national dress of Burma, of Myanmar. And you can see it was probably sewn, like if I cut anything off, I didn't cut very much off. So when you buy them, you usually end up buying a tube of fabric that's about this wide, and obviously I cut off a bunch more. It was just plain black with the one thin red stripe above, because it would go from your waist to the floor. But I made mine a knee-length skirt. I'm gonna make it a knee-length skirt again. Go on in. That's the skirt I want to show the people. Why you lie on it. Hey, look at this dog. I stand up for 2 seconds. We're almost done putting the elastic into this skirt. So I sewed up the back as a French seam. I reattached the hem lace. So it's like 10 o'clock at night, because even on the weekends, I still end up doing my sewing in the evenings for whatever reason. Yeah, like I spent most of the day, doing other stuff, and then unpicking the waistband. And then I thought, great, after dinner, I will do some sewing. After dinner, I discovered I don't have any black thread. I'm out. I have navy. And because I feel like I'm on a roll and this has sat unworn for years, and I really want to wear it again, I just decided to go with the navy. Because if I wait to buy black thread, tomorrow's a federal holiday, so I'm pretty sure none of the sewing stores are going to be open. So it's not like I don't even think I can get more black thread tomorrow. So we're going navy. And it is late at night here. I have looked and looked at the little section where I resewed the hem. Now I'm trying to find it with the navy. And honestly, I don't think it's noticeable. I may regret that when I have to unpick it all, when I realize that it's really obvious in real daylight, but I want to do this thing. I made my tube, my big tube, and then I cut elastic and sewed that into a tube as well. Sewed the small ends together. And I sewed that with a triple stitch, so there's extra security there, and then I also sewed down, it's hard to tell because I've already sewed this on, but I sewed down the seam allowances just so they wouldn't flap about. That's what I did in my other skirt. And then, you might be thinking, that looks terrible, Heather. That's because I want to hide the raw edge under the elastic. So what I did was, this is the skirt, right side out, like this is how it'll be worn. And then I flipped my elastic tube inside out, because this elastic has a good side and a bad side. And then I sewed that into the skirt that way. So wrong sides of the fabric are touching as I do this. It's a small elastic tube inside the big skirt tube or cylinder with wrong sides touching. And because this elastic has a design, I sort of lined up, this is all very rough because I just want it done. So I lined up the top of the skirt with one of the just lines of the design. I picked the same one and lined it up all the way around. It's probably about 1/4 inch down from the top of the elastic. So there's a little bit of blank elastic here, and then the roughly bit of the raw top edge of the skirt. When I was putting this together, I thought I might just stretch the elastic as I sewed to be the length of the fabric, but there was more fabric than that, so I did have to sew a basting stitch, slightly gather the fabric. You don't want to gather it to be the same width as your elastic belt, because then if you gather it to that distance and then sew it down without stretching out the elastic, you're not going to be able to stretch the elastic to get it over your thighs and butt, which is what we need to get this over for this to sit at the waist. So I gathered it slightly, so I still had to stretch the elastic as I was sewing. So then I sewed it down, and now it just looks weird and you can see the raw edge. But what we're going to do is then flip this way, sew it down again, And I do have a small bobbin of black thread, and maybe I'll put that in the machine, in the top of the machine, just because. So I think there's also going to be a lot of trimming as I do this, because the top edge is very frayy, and because it is fairly loosely woven fabric, and so yeah, I keep trimming and picking bits off. But I think it'll look nice once I've got this top part sewed down. I need to give it a press so the gathers behave nicely. So yeah, here we are, almost at a skirt. This is how I sew. Sometimes you don't have black thread, you only have navy, you want to finish it, so I just go. So I'm gonna go iron and then sew, and then tomorrow when there's actual light outside, I can hopefully show you a beautiful finished thing, and hopefully not see any navy thread on black elastic. Hi everyone, it's me again a few days later, and I have a bunch of things to show you. First, I just wanted to say that the fruit print top I was wearing in the last video is the Sophia top from Victory Patterns. And this that I'm wearing right now is my Sally jumpsuit by Closet Core. So yes, my top and bottom are covered in horizontal black and white stripes, and I love it. I'm so comfy. This is great weekend wear. So those are the me mades that I've been wearing last time and today that I'm talking to you. But I could be wearing other me mades. So yes, I last spoke to you. It was late at night. It was dark out. I was sewing black elastic onto the waistband of a black skirt with navy thread. I did it. I finished it. I had a tiny bit of black thread that I used. It ended up not being enough to go all the way around this skirt because I was using the triple stitch on my machine. So I have a very simple sort of late 80s Kenmore machine that does a regular stitch, a zigzag, and then it also does a triple stitch, which is a straight but stretchy. Looking at the needle as it does it, it's sort of one or two forward and then a couple back and then forward and back. So it ends up going over each stitch 3 times, which does make it stretch. So, but it uses 3 times the thread. So the tiny little bobbin of black thread I found only went so far on here, so then I had to rethread with the navy again. But then do you know what happened? I'll show you the skirt proper in a second. But then do you know what happened? I finished this with the navy thread. I convinced myself it was fine. And then the next day I started a new project, and I moved something on my sewing table and found a whole fat roll of black thread. Unused, because I knew I was out, and I went out and I bought black thread weeks ago, and then when I was looking for it, I couldn't find it. I just thought I was crazy. But no, it was on the sewing table the whole time in a pile of things I wanted to make because I had thought, oh, these are the next few projects I want to make. I will get out everything I need for these projects and put them in a pile on the sewing table so it's ready to go. And the bottom project on that pile was black, and that's where the black thread was. I did not unpick this because I don't think the navy is that visible. So now that it's much lighter out than the last time I was filming, I think you can see the pattern in the waistband a little better, how that elastic is patterned, and I really love it. So this is my skirt. I'm going to throw in some modeled shots as well. This is my cute little skirt made out of Burmese fabric that I got when traveling. This is the second iteration. I took out the zip, took out the waistband, made it elastic so it's going to fit for much longer, much better for much longer. But I'm really happy that this is in my wearable wardrobe again because as I said, there's sentimental value to me for this fabric. For the trip I took with my mom to Myanmar to find out where my grandpa grew up, and I bought some of the sort of traditional fabrics of the area, and I'm just really happy to have this. And it's so brightly colored down here, but because it's black up here, it feels kind of like a neutral. And it's also something that I can pair just about any color with. I feel like having all these bright colors in here makes it easier to just wear whatever color on top because there's already so many. Why not a couple more? So yeah, I'm really excited about that, how it fits. For all the back and forth stupidness about the navy thread and then finding the black, I really don't think it's noticeable. Like, it's noticeable right now here to me because I'm looking for it and I know it's there. But when I'm actually wearing this in public and it's on my waistband, it's not going to be visible. It's the type of thing that's only visible if you're really close to it. Like you guys are, and if you ever see me out in the wild, I guess you'll know. I like it. I'm excited to wear it. It's nice and light, so it's a great summer skirt. So I think I also mentioned when I was talking about my sewing plans and fixing this up, I mentioned a blue linen that I wanted to turn into a skirt. That I'd actually wanted to turn into a skirt for more than a year because the pieces had been cut out for that long. And so I finished that late one night. The next morning I felt like I was on a sewing roll, so I made the blue skirt. Ta-da! Big blue skirt. This is longer than the other one. Like, this one is definitely right at the knee length. This one is slightly more of a midi length, definitely well below the knee. This skirt is the Siena skirt from Sew Over It, from their Summer Dreaming pattern bundle. And ever since I bought that pattern bundle a couple years ago, I honestly wanted to make all the things in it, which is why buying the bundle was worth it to me. And I've made a number of the items from it now. And I think one day when I've made a few more, because I still have plans, I think I'll do a whole video on just everything I've made out of that bundle. But I also wanted to show you some of the things together with this skirt, because I think this skirt really pulls it together. It's like a tiny little capsule of this skirt and 3 tops. So this is button front. These are all real buttonholes. I could have, because it's not like you ever unbutton these lower buttons, but I did them all as proper buttonholes and buttons. The blue linen is from Blackbird Fabrics a couple years ago, like 2021. So in 2021, I bought this fabric and 2 others to make a dress with the 3 fabrics together. That was 2021. In 2022, I ended up making one of those fabrics into its own top, which is the lime green wrap top you'll see in a moment. And then this year I made a top out of the other fabric, which is sort of a squiggle patterned linen that I talked about that top a couple of videos ago, so I'll link that here. And then this was the 3rd fabric that was going to be in the dress with those other 2. I made into a skirt. And so the really cool thing is that I bought these 3 fabrics together because I thought they would go nicely as one garment. And then I ended up giving up on that pattern, which is the I Am Scheherazade pattern, which I'll link below so you can look. I still want to make it sometime, but I ended up not doing it with these 3 things. But that means these 3 items go together. So this Siena skirt is nice and simple. It's just a button front, it's got a waistband, it's got these patch pockets on the front. It's gathered into the waistband, but they have some very specific gathering instructions, so there's no gathering on the side seams here. Like it's spaced out a little bit, so you don't end up with gathers there. There's also a little space like in the fronts here. The gathering only starts at these points. The back is the same. It sort of keeps it off the side seams, which gives it a nice silhouette. It's sort of slimmer, slightly slimmer on the sides there than it would be if the gathering went all the way around. I really love it. I wore it to work, I think the day after I finished it, or the next work day after I finished it. And I got a ton of compliments from strangers, women I didn't know, on the subway or while I was walking to or from the subway. And I think it's just because it's this gorgeous, highly pigmented color, gorgeous blue, and it's also really swishy. Like when I was walking wearing it, I just felt, oh, so swishy. Loved it. That was really like affirming. Like I don't need the outside. I sew for me, not the outside perspective, but it was just really nice to hear those things from other women who were also wearing really great outfits, that they liked my outfit that day. So that was really fun. And with cheap plastic Fabricland buttons that so perfectly match this blue. So the things I want to show you that I'm planning on wearing with it are 2 versions of the Sew Over It Ravello top, and I've made 2 versions in the 2 linens that were going to be the Scheherazade dress with this blue. The green one, I think you heard me talk about in Me Made May. I love it. I love the color and the fit and everything, but it is so cropped because it's the most cropped version of sort of, I think, 4 different lengths from crop top all the way to floor length dress in the Sew Over It pattern. It's so cropped that I can't wear it. I can only wear it with one skirt. I used to only be able to wear it with one particular skirt that was high-waisted enough that wouldn't show anything in between. But now I have these 2 options. There's no lime green in here, but why not? And then this with the green is just really great color blocking. Pow pow. Bright green, bright blue. How I wore it to work the other day when I got all those compliments was with my other version of the Ravello top. Again, as I said, a recent make in sort of a white linen that has blue and green patterning, floral, squiggly patterning on it. That one is the second length of the Ravello top that is sort of basically the same as my green one, but with a peplum attached, that I have worn with pants before and I was uncertain about. It has loosened up with washing. But then when I wore it with this skirt, I tried wearing it untucked. I didn't really like that. So then I tucked in the peplum part. So it just looked like it was the length of the green one. But that went really well. I loved that. I loved wearing those two pieces together. It was a great outfit. And then the third thing to wear with this is, as I said, this is the skirt of the Siena dress, which Sew Over It gives you instructions on how to make it just a skirt or a dress or just a top, and I made just the top. And I made that out of a remnant of the deadstock fabric. That fruit print shirt I was wearing when I was talking about this, when I was filming the other day, I had enough of that left over that I made the Siena top, which is the top of this dress, skirt pattern, because I'm thinking of making the whole dress in one fabric, and then I wanted to try out how the bodice fit me. Slight flaw in that plan is I don't remember the changes I made to the bodice, but I have this top now that I made last year that I've never worn because it is also super duper cropped. And I'm excited to try it on with this skirt to see how it fits. I actually used the same buttons because I bought a ton of these buttons and they blend into the fruit fabric as well. So I think that's another great option, and it gives me like a little mini capsule wardrobe purely by finishing this one skirt. And then this is going to add such another great black but also colorful workhorse into my wardrobe that I'm really excited about the rest of the summer and wearing these a lot. My coworkers are probably going to get tired of seeing this one in particular. I guess one last thing to say about the Siena pattern is it has these great patch pockets on, which I really love. Every skirt, I think, should have pockets. They're a little low. Like when I'm wearing it, it feels like I am reaching down a little farther than I normally would be for a pocket. But it's still fine. It's not absurdly low and I can still reach it. But yeah, I feel like if I make this again, I might raise the pockets maybe an inch or two. I also did not change anything about the hem length of this. I am 5'3", which I think is shorter than most companies draft for, but as I was trying on pre-hemming, I actually really liked the length that it was, and knowing how much hem allowance they were having you turn under. So I just kept it at that, and that I think gives it that really nice sort of extra swishy length. And I think all these gathers help because there's a lot of fabric, and when it's that length it really just like swishes as you walk, and I love it. So happy I finally sewed this up. I think I cut this out maybe the end of last summer, so it hasn't been a full year, but it's been most of a year. I bought the fabric, it sat for a year, then I cut it out, then it sat for another year, and now in 2023 I finally sewed it. But that's it for me this week. Fabulous skirt week. Thanks for listening, thanks for watching. If you could like and subscribe and leave a comment, that'd be so great. It's so great to hear from people. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later. Bye. Who's that? Who is that? Is it Conan? Yeah, you're Conan.